You're listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. Before we get started, make sure you like us on Facebook and Instagram at Range Minded Podcast and leave us some feedback and a rating from wherever you get your podcast from. It really does help us out a lot. This is episode 101, where since most all of us are quarantined at home, we go through some of our favorite gun-related YouTube channels. Maybe you've heard of some of them, and maybe not, but hopefully it gives you a little more entertainment since you may have a lot more free time. As always, thanks for listening to Range Minded, and we hope you enjoy episode 101, the best gun YouTubers on the internet. Hello and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. My name is Mark Long, and as always, I am joined by
a very essential employee, Steve Zimmerman.
You're building homes, so you are essential.
I consider even if I wasn't, I'd still consider myself essential somehow.
Well, you are the head of your household.
Somebody needs me.
Yeah, your family needs you.
That's right.
So, that
is correct.
We are coming to you live from our homes, quarantined, staying away from people, keeping our social distance.
Doing my best. I mean, I have moments of weakness where I go, other than working, right? But I've been pretty good. I don't need to go to the lumber yards or anything. But sometimes you still got to eat, right? You still got to go to the restaurant.
Yeah, you've got to get some food, especially if you...
But it's drive-in only.
Yeah, drive-in or delivery only. And it seems like people are still out and about outside in droves.
Yeah, so we were talking about this off air. In Idaho, the governor issued a stay-at-home order, and it maybe dropped traffic 10%.
Yeah, if that.
Maybe.
I've been having
maybe
to
a little
go,
bit more than that. It doesn't seem like very many people are staying home.
No, I've been having to go here and there a little bit, not too terribly much, but the times I have gone out, you wouldn't know that there's a stay-at-home order, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, it is. It's kind of frustrating to where I think about all these older folks that have a hard time leaving, or people that can't get it to the stores. And when I have gone to the store, all I see is younger families that don't seem like they may be struggling as much, shopping and buying ridiculous amounts of things that they probably don't need, which I could be wrong. I guess it's not fair for me to judge, but I have a sneaking hunch that there are other families that are really struggling, that are finding it very, very difficult to buy food or toilet paper or milk or whatever,
They're probably more in need maybe than some are more in need than others, is what you're saying?
Yeah. And maybe people think the same thing about me when we go. But yesterday, though, we went shopping yesterday. The only difference is I was doing more shopping for my parents than for us. And so that was my excuse anyways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I've seen people buying normal amounts of things. And then I've also seen people, like I saw a guy who had 6 dozen eggs.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess maybe you either have a huge family or you're buying, for preparation, I guess, but eggs don't last forever.
No, there's a way to keep them, but not for terribly long. There's some old school techniques, but you can't freeze them. So you got to cook them and freeze them, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. So luckily I was able to get all of our stuff before the stay-at-home order, but yeah, other folks, may have not been so lucky to, and you hear these kind of stories about nurses and medical professionals working, 12, 18-hour days and then going to the store and they don't have anything. It's kind of sad.
That's really wrong. It's not what America's about, right? Like we're a country that's been known to pull together and help each other up, but it seems like right now there's a lot of fun. Not everybody, but it seems like there's a lot of folks that just fend for yourselves.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
It is. And then there's a side of me that thinks, well, you guys should have prepared way before. Like, it's not hard to buy, an extra loaf of bread and throw it in the freezer or something before chaos hits.
Right. And, what's interesting, too, is people panic buying guns and ammo.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to the store, and it's been crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely nuts.
Yeah, and that's one good thing, though. I guess that Independence is still open. It's an essential business, which I think is a good thing.
The president the president just came out, I think it was today, this afternoon, and said that firearms manufacturers and ammo manufacturers and retailers are essential in times of crisis.
Well, self-defense.
So that's cool.
Yeah, but good luck getting ammo anywhere. It's a tough thing out there, which what made me think about it. You were talking about preparing already beforehand, and you should probably have a good stock of ammo on hand anyway for cases just like this.
Yeah, and I never have enough, and I think I'm finally going to learn this go around once the prices calm down a little bit.
Sure.
I'm not going to go out and buy crazy, but I'll buy a little extra here and there just to stock up.
Yeah, buy a box or two extra maybe every time you go or whatever. But it's and logically, I doubt it'll get to a point where we'll be all sitting outside of our homes. However, you never know, and it's better to be prepared.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but you're right. You never know, and you never know when you need to help out your neighbor either. So
yeah, there's also that.
Just be a good neighbor and figure life out.
Well, but we'll shift gears a little bit because that's not what the focus of the podcast is. We're actually going to talk about some lighthearted-ish stuff, I would say.
Yeah. In fact, this was your idea, and I liked this idea. It's very fitting.
Yeah, we're all sitting at home, really. Even if you're not maybe at a stay-at-home order, you're probably keeping your distance, staying inside, probably bored to tears. And what better way to pass the time than watch YouTube videos about guns and firearms and shooting and all that? And so I thought it'd be a good idea to get together a list of our favorite firearms-related YouTube channels that we can watch. Maybe you've heard of some of them. Maybe you haven't gotten into them. And, maybe give you some more entertainment options because you probably run out of Netflix.
Yeah. Well, and Netflix said they're slowing down too. They're going to be restricting their not bandwidth, whatever. It's going to be less of good of a viewing experience because everybody's just pounding them and they don't want to break the internet. So
they have to lower their quality kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Exactly.
I'm here for you.
Yeah, their streaming quality is going to go down because they're worried that they're going to break the internet, I guess.
Man, that's unfortunate, but I mean, everybody's staying at home and watching stuff online. So yeah, that's a secondary consequence of what's going on right now. So, but anyway, so I have a list of 4 or 5 or 6 of them, and some favorite videos of mine, what I like about them, that kind of stuff. But let's start with you. I'm sure you have a list of a couple. I want to know who was at the top of that list.
It's really hard for me to come to a number one because I like so many of them. Probably the first one that really jumps to mind is Vickers Tactical, Larry Vickers.
Oh, he's great.
And I know we've talked to him a little bit about on the show before. Larry, as a person, he's hard to get along with. Like, I've tried to talk to Larry. He comes across as kind of arrogant, but I've heard that's really not the case, that he's actually a pretty down-to-earth guy. Just in the 2 times I've talked to him one was at a shop in Idaho Falls. He came through and he was late for a flight or something, so he was in a hurry. And the other one was at SHOT Show, and obviously that wasn't probably not a very fair way for me to assume what he's like at SHOT Show, because when you talk to thousands and thousands of people in a day, of course you'll be grumpy. But Larry's content, like, he goes through some of the some obscure guns, and those are the videos I really like watching, is when he goes through some of these hard to get guns in America or something like that. He's not only a gun enthusiast and instructor, but he's also a wealth of information on obscure and antique guns, military type guns. And so his videos that he has, some of that stuff is just so cool to watch. And he's also got some really cool slow-mo videos of like AKs and AR-15s that are pretty cool to watch too. Yeah, they're actually kind of hypnotic. I remember watching, he had I think it was an FG-42 from World War II that he did in slow-mo, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. Yeah, some of the stuff, I don't know how he gets his hands on some of the stuff he does just because of the rarity, but it's some pretty cool stuff. Well, I think the first, I know it's the first video I ever remember watching of Vickers is when he went to the anti-terrorist unit in Russia and shot with a Spetsnaz.
Oh,
and
really?
some of their drills, which are absolutely crazy. Something that they'd never do in the United States, shooting past guys to hit targets and stuff like that. Just, but super intense.
Stuff we
Like,
would probably consider incredibly dangerous and stupid.
yeah, but the level of training, you're right, it is seem that way, but the level of training these guys go through and the confidence that they have to have with each other shooting next to each other is, oh man, that video is crazy.
Yeah, I imagine. And yeah, Larry Vickers is just a wealth of knowledge on a lot of different things. And I really like the way he presents his stuff. It's very factual, like kind of facts based and matter of fact. There's not a lot of fluff to it, which I kind of like.
Yeah, and he's written a few books too. So I mean, like I said, he's got a huge amount of knowledge, and he's just a man. He's like a pillar in the 2A community when it comes to history and even to tactics. I think he was a Green Beret, if I remember right. Um, top tier guy. Like, he understands his stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to arm wrestle him even now.
I didn't know he was a Green Beret back in the day. I wasn't sure actually what his background was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was a Green Beret. He was top tier guy, or maybe he was Delta. He might have been a Delta guy, but he was up there.
Man, that's pretty cool. Yeah, he's one of my favorites too. I don't think I subscribe to his, but he does come up every once in a while, especially like you mentioned, like if I'm looking up obscure guns or something weird or different, and he goes out and shoots them, which I think is really cool too.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing, like, there's a few historical firearms website or YouTube channels, but he actually gets behind them and runs the gun, which is what I like to see.
Yeah, it's a little more fun than sitting behind a desk. Not that that's a bad thing, because one of my favorite YouTube accounts is Forgotten Weapons. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's probably
Yep.
familiar, but if you're not, you need to just go onto YouTube and search Forgotten Weapons, because Ian McCollum is this guy who just goes over in intricate detail the history of different kinds of firearms, takes them apart. You know, if you're into the machinery and the mechanics of how firearms works, it's really fascinating to see how all this works, and the confidence that guy has to take these things apart and put them back together has to be way up there. Like, but he explains it to you also in a way that like makes sense. So like the HK, I think it's the G11. You know what I'm talking about?
I haven't. I don't know.
It was
I don't think so.
a project, an assault rifle project for the U.S. military and the German military that used caseless ammunition.
Okay.
And the way it worked was the bolt actually like rotated as it fed, like kind of like a P90, but instead of the magazine like rotating the rounds, it was the actual bolt. And it's just this crazy complex thing that has to do with, you know, things rotating and pushing and pulling and all that. And Ian from Forgotten Weapons explains it in a really kind of cool way. That's one of my favorite videos of his. But he also just goes over the history of where the gun came from, what the ideas were. He even has like different iterations. Like he did one on the HK Mark 23, and he had, you know, 3 different versions of it lined up. And you're able to kind of see the different changes and stuff, and really a good way of storytelling kind of the history of firearms, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And he's another one of those guys, like, I don't know where he gets some of the stuff he talks about.
Yeah, I don't either. And I mean, I've seen him run kind of a couple of guns too, which is kind of cool.
I've had a chance in my day to hold some pretty rare and amazing firearms. But that guy, he's he has some strange access, and which is good because then it lets us all enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember where it is, but HK's got like and that's kind of what turned me on to him in the first place. The way he went over all these, you know, HK guns, is he was in their like vault room or something, and so he's got the background of all the HK guns and has all this access to all of them. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, like you said, we're fortunate that he's able to share all that with us. But there's some cool stuff. If you want to dive deep and fall down a rabbit hole into gun history, Forgotten Weapons is really a great place to go.
It's so sad that we talk about this kind of stuff and how intriguing it is, because it's not just shooting the gun or watching the bullets impact, which is still cool. But it's sad that YouTube wants to demonetize these guys, and because it's benign, like it's history. So frustrating.
Yeah, I mean and you're right. It's not necessarily even the shooting videos. Like I'm sure anything with a gun, even just talking about the history and stuff, will threaten to get demonetized. And um, it seems like YouTube is wholly against, using or having firearms content, but it's still there. Thankfully, I know there's been threats of it being removed or demonetized or whatever,
Yeah.
but thankfully it's at least still there for now.
Yeah, every time a snowflake cries about something, then those videos end up getting pulled, or the channel gets flagged, or
Yeah, but
it's annoying.
Like you said, it's history, and it's interesting to learn, especially because our history is so interwoven with firearms, and a lot of other countries are as well. And you really are learning about history, especially with something like Forgotten Weapons, or even Larry Vickers, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's another one on your list?
So I just talked about, bullets impacting things or projectiles impacting things. One of my favorites, in fact, every time I get a notification that they've put out a new video, is Tau Fledermaus.
I've never heard of that.
It's Taufledermaus. Tau Fledermaus.
Sounds German.
And so what? It does sound quite German. And I think these guys are either from Central California or maybe in Arizona. I'm not quite sure where these guys are from. But he gets these usually almost always shotgun rounds that they load, and a bunch of his subscribers, they'll turn, certain materials, and then he'll load them and see what the projectile does in certain media.
Huh.
And it's actually some really cool stuff. And he gets projectiles from all over the world. He's got subscribers in Russia. There's this one guy that, in fact, one of his last couple of videos, I think it was a solid brass projectile that they turned and mailed him 5 that he could load. It's actually a really fun video to watch, because he'll do it in slow motion so you can see how things impact and how it tumbles, or how it spins or whatever, spin stabilization. He's smart too. He's not dumb. He understands ballistics and stuff like that, like how the shockwave reacts to things. Like it's cool.
Yeah, I think
that is, like I say, every time I see his notification come up, I watch that video.
Yeah, I think YouTube and just watching videos about firearms in general makes ballistics a lot more interesting, but also easier to, at least for me, to understand. You shout a bunch of numbers at me and show me graphs and charts and stuff like that. I don't necessarily get it. My mind can't wrap around it. But when you show me, this type of projectile, fired from this cartridge or whatever, does this to a target, or will land here or whatever. That's what makes it click in my mind. So I'll have to check that guy out, man. That sounds pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's a fun channel to watch.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through it right now, and there's a lot there that I think needs to be checked out.
Yeah, and he's like, one of his old videos, I think he put spikes in a 410 in a 410 shot and was shooting spikes out of it. Like, that was like old. I'm pretty sure that was him, but that was from a long time ago.
Yeah, just wild stuff.
Good stuff.
But that's the other thing too, is that slow motion, at least for me too, really does drive the point home of what these folks are trying to do, and really seeing how firearms manufacture, or how they function, because you can explain, the cycle of fire to somebody, but being able to see it, I think, in a video in real life or a computer animation is actually much more beneficial to illustrate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like that's how that works. Like, you can look, like, for example, when I was doing the AR build classes, a lot of folks, they didn't make sense why the springs worked the way they did, or how certain parts associate. But there's some awesome animations, like you're saying, on YouTube, that it just clicks. They can see everything. It skeletonizes the frame, and then they can see exactly what does what and why. And it's super helpful.
Yeah, it makes everything click a lot better, because I mean the cycle of fire is so fast in a semi-automatic, firearm of any type.
In a full semi-auto.
Yeah, fully semi-auto happens 30 clips a second, I think.
Yeah, 30 round clips. Yep.
30 in a second, 30 caliber clip in a second.
Exactly.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's a great one.
Exactly.
Let's see. Another one that this guy, I think he's might have come under fire right now a little bit. I haven't looked into it. But have you heard of a guy named Paul Harrell?
The name sounds familiar, but I don't think I've seen his videos.
It's Paul Harrell or Paul Harrell. I think it's Paul Harrell. It's Harrell. And he's like he was in the National Guard. He was a firearms instructor there. Kind of an older gentleman. Kind of got that instructor sense of humor. But he's like,
oh, maybe I do. Is he from the South?
No, he's actually from Oregon.
He got a Southern accent. Oh, that's not what I thought it was.
But he's won a bunch of sharpshooter competitions and stuff, and I believe he's actually had to use a firearm in self-defense with lethal consequences. So he's got some experience with, defensive shooting and concealed carrying and that kind of stuff. But he does a lot of his own kind of testing. Like he does the videos that I've seen, he does a lot of penetration testing. Like there was one video which he did, which was 9 versus 40.
Yeah.
And he basically made his own dummy test subject using ribs and a sack of oranges for lungs, and then using a beef heart sandwiched in between to simulate a real heart. It was kind of interesting to see. And about the other thing is he does these kind of experiments or whatever and shows the results, and he goes, well, which one is better? You be the judge. He's not telling you the end all be all kind of thing. But he does bring up a lot of interesting points. The only thing I'll say about him is that you'll want to make sure you have some time to kill, because I think one of the shortest videos I've ever seen from him is 10 minutes long, and they go all the way up to 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, here's one that's an hour long.
Yeah.
3 days ago.
Yeah,
Interesting.
There's some kind of somebody I think tried to call him out online, and that he wasn't a reliable educator. But I can't. Maybe one of our listeners can fill us in on the drama, but it's something like that. And that I think that hour-long video is a response to somebody trying to call him out or something. I just didn't, believe it or not, quarantine or otherwise, I didn't have the time to watch an hour-long YouTube video. So make sure you have some time. But I think he's an interesting guy. Definitely an interesting perspective.
I just subscribed to him because I'd never heard of him before.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think that the thoroughness of his videos, the time he takes, the detail that he goes into, because he talks about, with everything he shoots, he talks about the kind of ammo he's shooting and tries to compare apples to apples, as much as he can. He talks about gun safety too. He talks about, there's a video that I saw, it's the most common types of negligent just discharge that he's seen, with some examples. So it's kind of a little bit of everything. He talks about home defense, did a wall test with different, a handgun versus an AR-15 versus a shotgun. Basically simulating being 3 rooms away and having drywall set up the right way, and then an exterior wall almost set up kind of how you would in a house, and really testing it out and seeing how much penetration there really is in different rounds.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I can imagine some people might think he's a little dry, or but like I said, he's kind of got that instructor humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's always the best kind. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it, but it's somebody that you can tell they've been around and seen a lot of different things and a lot of screw ups.
Yeah, that's the best kind of experience. Unfortunately, sometimes usually when you make a mistake, you learn, and then you teach other people don't make the same mistake.
Yeah, but I like his videos a lot. If I have a lot of time to kill, I can only really sit through 1 or 2 at a time. He's not really the most binge worthy, but he's got a lot of good stuff. So if you ever have a chance to check out Paul Harrell, I would recommend it.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, he's got some good stuff.
Gonna have to.
Yeah, it's funny because we've talked about 9 versus 40, I think, or just different calibers and stuff like that on our podcast. But he and I, we've kind of come to the consensus that it's similar and it's more about shot placement and stuff like that. But he offers some interesting insight about, just penetration and, what kind of damage each round can do. So it's kind of interesting perspective and insights on that. So
I'm gonna have to check him out.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So what's next on your list?
So I can't decide which way I'm gonna go on this, because there's a couple. So maybe I'll just go to Coleon Noir. So
Oh yeah,
have you ever watched any Coleon?
Coleon Noir.
So I kind of get frustrated with him. He's a little bit of a prima donna.
Yeah.
But he usually ends up being pretty spot on in some of his arguments. So he's an attorney, like he understands the law side of things, but he's also a huge 2A advocate. I know there's a lot of drama and shady areas when it comes to the NRA and all that big old debacle, but I tend to like to watch his videos because he makes me think, even if I'm trying to argue against him, which I don't, but he makes me think a little bit. But I can't sit and watch a bunch of his videos either. Like I'll watch one or two, maybe a month, but not very often.
Yeah, when I go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, when I first got into firearms, Coleon Noir was one of the first people that I was able to get into, because, and this was like, over 10 years ago ish now. He was super like entertaining, had a lot of great, content that he was shooting. I think this was before he was even involved with the NRA, and had a lot of great arguments, kind of like educating people on like, okay, if somebody says this, like, if somebody says, why do you need an AR-15? Well, it's because of this, X, Y, and Z reason. And like you said, it's hard to argue against the points that he raises, in those. I haven't watched him all that much lately. I think, like you said, I mean, I've never met the guy, but it does seem like he's kind of a prima donna, maybe a little, or he's just,
there's just something about him that I don't think I'd want to hang out and eat dinner with him or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would, but I just, I would give him a shot, and I bet you he might be a really nice person in person.
Yeah, he's probably a stud, but
I will say, I guess it's just, I think when he got involved with the NRA, I think he got like a big deal kind of complex a little bit, like, oh, I'm hot stuff now,
Yeah, just like Dana Lash did, and all those folks, when they really got hooked up with the NRA, they got their own shows, and they got a lot of publicity, good and bad, and I don't know. I think, I don't know.
Well,
you be the judge.
Fame does, yeah, there you go. Fame does weird things to people, but if you go back to his beginnings, like his initial videos from back in the day, I think they're really well done, and I think that he's got, and the way that he shoots his videos are really good too. Like the actual production value is really entertaining to watch. And it's interesting because he's a Texas guy, and he lives, I think, in Dallas. And he's like a city guy. Like he lives like in an apartment in a major city or whatever, and he's got all these guns and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting to see that, there are 2A supporters everywhere, no matter what,
Yeah.
So
yeah, but as far as like argument side, like I like him as far as having the knowledge and the understanding the legalese. Like he's pretty good that way.
Yeah, and like I said, like you said, he's hard to argue against. And really, I think, if you ever talk to somebody and you're kind of struggling to defend your position about why people need guns as tools for self-defense, or why you should be able to own an AR or whatever, I think you check out his videos, and he'll give you some good ammunition, no pun intended, on just some talking points, you know what I mean, or just some things to bring up with people in a conversation,
Right.
So I don't know, I just think, when he got involved with the NRA, I think it kind of gave him a big head, maybe. So
yeah, there's just something about him now that, like I say, I'll watch one video, maybe two a month, but if that even.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, and I will say he's a great shot. He's a great shooter. He can shoot very, very well.
And super athletic. Like I know some of his videos where he has this little I don't know, it's almost like a USPSA range, but he'll run and shoot and run to one place, do some push-ups and shoot, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and he takes it seriously. I mean, the guy's passion and his the passion and the importance of the Second Amendment from him are a big deal to me. I think, you know, and I will say I forgot he was on Joe Rogan's podcast about a year ago. That's a great podcast to listen to. A great episode of that show to listen to. If you haven't,
hunt it down.
Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, no, he's a good, especially like getting into guns. I think he's great for new shooters. If you go check out his back catalog, and just see what he's got to say.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no, I went. I started from him. Another guy when I first got into guns, who's been doing stuff for a while. I don't know what his real name is, but on YouTube he's Such00. You ever seen this guy?
No, I've never heard of him.
Well,
Such00.
Yeah, SOOTCH 00. He like it seems like he reviews like every gun ever, like, or every like modern handgun. And like, well, he'll pit them against each other sometimes. Does older guns. Anytime, like especially when I started my firearms journey and wanted to like looked up reviews for like, you know, Walther PPQ or
I think I do know who this guy is.
He has a review for like every gun. And I don't know why or how, but he'll actually shoot it and run it, which is cool. He'll take it down on a table and like take it apart, show you how easy field stripping it is.
He almost has 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, so I guess he's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But he'll go back and show you how everything works on the gun and everything. He'll shoot it, do some accuracy tests and stuff like that. I think he's a Southern boy. He's got a little bit of an accent to him, but yeah, man. I mean, I remember once I found one. He did an HK VP9 versus Walther PPQ. Just like, who'd have thunk to ever? I mean, they're very similar guns, but it's one of the only videos where I saw where they actually compare the two.
Yeah.
So, and
interesting.
He's done like reviews on older like used guns. It always seems like, those deals when like police or like another organization will get rid of all their guns, and then you'll see them on like websites for police trade-in or whatever.
Right.
Seems like he always grabs one of those and does a review on one. Like a couple months ago, I think he did one on a Smith & Wesson 6906.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, okay, like that's really random, but I guess if you've ever wanted to have a all metal, that generation Smith, may as well check out a review on it. He did one on a Jericho 941. He compared the Glock 44 with the PPQ 22. So just all kinds of stuff. So he's kind of an interesting character. If you're ever looking for a gun review, chances are that guy's probably going to have it.
That's interesting. I just subscribed to him. So
there you go. We're helping each other out.
Look at that.
But that goes back to you now. So who's next on your list?
So this goes to a podcast, actually, because they got a podcast and then a bunch of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So Tom Gresham with Gun Talk is like my go-to as far as the second best podcast that comes out on Sundays is Gun Talk.
Yes.
Anyway, they have
another one.
A huge catalog of gun videos, and they do stuff on TV and things too. So they're kind of a big deal, but the Gun Talk videos they have, they're pretty informative. Some of them are really basic. They're kind of geared towards, well, I think they can go to anybody at any levels, any skill level.
Uh-huh.
But they have a bunch of stuff, and they do some First Person Defender, which is their TV show that then they end up posting the videos on their YouTube channel later on, like a season later or whatever.
Oh, really?
Those are really interesting because they're scenarios where they put people in real life scenarios where they have to defend themselves with a gun, and it makes you think.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I've heard of Tom Gresham, but I didn't know that he had a YouTube presence. I kind of
Yeah.
feel kind of silly that to think that he didn't, but yeah, he's one of the biggest gun podcast guys out there, and um, that's just another good thing if you're doing stuff around the house and maybe you can't watch a video, but you can listen to a podcast. If you're all caught up on Range Minded, check out Tom Gresham's Gun Talk.
Yeah, he's okay. Like he's all right
by comparison.
Yeah. So like this video, for example, they just posted one yesterday, was about dry fire practice. Like it's a 2-minute long video, just talks about just some safety tips when you're dry fire practicing.
There you go.
Pretty simple, 2-minute long video.
Yeah.
But they got a slew of videos like that out there.
That's cool though, because it's easily digestible. It's not a really heavy amount of content. You don't have to sit and kind of mentally prepare. But at the same time, then you can learn something from it, and you can never, we've said it before and say it again, that you can never go wrong with the basics.
Nope.
So, that reminds me of another one though, is that, I don't have it on the list, but it just made me think of it, was John Correa.
Oh yeah.
He's a big deal.
Yeah,
he's a guy that uses real life situations from CCTV footage and, police, I think, cams and all these kind of things that have really happened, and shows you how, some of these situations really do go down.
Yeah, I like John Correa for that sake, because like you say, he'll go through actual footage of an incident, and then it really makes people think like, first of all, you see how quick incidents happen. I mean, whether it's like 2.5 seconds is what a normal incident will happen, a self-defense circumstance, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it can happen very quickly.
Super fast. And it's usually not what people think in their mind. And John goes through that stuff, and yeah, he's awesome.
Well, it's like our good friend Adam Boyce, talking about knife attacks and altercations and stuff, about how those things don't, end up or go down like they do in the movies or whatever. It's not how you think. And I would say John Correa with active self-protection is the same deal. And he posts pretty regularly too. And it really does make you think about different situations, because you could find one that, you could probably see yourself in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then that's the other thing, is you realize the wide variety of. There's no cookie cutter instance. I mean, every self-defense situation is different.
Yeah,
and John goes through as many of those as you can find,
and goes into it in detail too, about just here's what happened in this, and then their reaction, then the next person's reaction, and so on and so forth, and it makes you think. It really does. It's sobering. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess my next one, in fact just watched one of his videos, was good old Hickok 45.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with him.
Hickoks?
Oh yeah, he's great.
He's a special guy. That guy.
I want to be him basically when I'm older and retired.
So he was reviewing the video I watched anyway. I think that's his newest one. He was going through the Glock 20 in 10 mil.
Oh yeah,
and dude just handles that thing like a rock star.
Yeah, I mean, the way that he can shoot is insane. I mean, if you haven't ever watched a Hickok 45 video, I'm gonna paint the picture. Is he lives in Kentucky? He's like a retired school teacher, I'm pretty sure, and he has all these different guns.
He's also like 6'7".
Yeah, he's
6'8", like
really tall.
The guy's a monster.
He's got to be like almost 70 probably. And he's got a range in his backyard, basically. I think he owns like a bunch of land, but he's got like a range with all these steel targets, a little shooting bench, and he's got a gong that I think is set out at 100 yards?
I think it's 100 yards.
And he can hit it, 4 times out of 5, 9 times out of 10, with like any pistol.
With a handgun.
Yeah. It's crazy. So you could tell he's one of those people that like, he just enjoys shooting, and it like genuinely the act of like target shooting makes him happy. And I feel like
And
if I ever met somebody who was like super anti-gun, I'd be like, see, guns are evil and blah, blah. Oh, yeah? Well, talk about this old guy enjoying himself target shooting in his backyard, you know?
And the thing I like about his videos is like, I don't think there's a script. There's no real production. Like it's just a video camera and Hickok. That's it. And he just talks.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. There's no slickness to it. I think his son, I think, films it and just sits behind him in the back. There's no like scene changes. There's no fancy CGI intros or anything like that. He just does his intro, usually pulls a gun out of a holster and starts shooting at soda bottles or clay pots or stuff like that. And he just lets it have some fun. And it's like watching a guy go fishing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what I think makes him so successful at it is he's just a genuine old dude that just out there shooting, having fun.
Yeah, and that again, like when I first started shooting, that was one of the places, one of the first channels that I started watching, and it made, to me at least, it made firearms seem very approachable. That it is a sport that you can enjoy. It's not just for, just for self-defense. Like there is an actual, enjoyment of the sport and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I thought that was something that was very inviting to the sport of shooting. So
yeah, he's a stud, that old guy.
Yeah, and he's been at it for a long time. I think his channel probably is, it's got to be 10 years old or more.
Oh, I'm sure it's been around a while.
Yeah,
I think him and the Military Arms channel. Who's some of the other ones? They've been around a long time. Maybe Demolition Ranch. Some of those have been around from like the beginning of YouTube.
Yeah, Coleon Noir is another one who's been around at it for a really long time. I'm trying to think. There was one. Check this out. Yeah, so Hickok 45's got almost 5 million subscribers.
Wow.
And I don't know how far back his videos have gone or whatever. I don't know if they tell you. Joined January 6th of 2007. 13 years.
Nice.
But like just 6 days ago, he just posted a 36-minute video. Welcome new gun owners.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So and that's the thing too, is I think he's in touch with the gun community. He's not just some old guy out in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
So yeah, he's a good one. Another one that's been around, I think, for a while, is there's a website called the Firearm Blog, and TS, and they have their YouTube channel is called TFB TV, which I think is actually kind of they do a good mix of information, but also do a good mix of information and humor. They make it kind of lighthearted. The guy who runs a fair amount of them, James Reeves, is an interesting character.
Yeah.
But and some of them, I guess, can get a little campy or whatever. I think sometimes they kind of pull things out of the air for content. But hey, we've done that a couple times.
Absolutely. Why not?
So one of the favorite things, I don't know if they've done it in a while, but one of the things, they do a lot of countdowns, but one of the things they started doing a while ago was doing guns from certain movies, or like going through a movie and going through all the firearms that were in there. So like they did one with Die Hard about like so they did the MP5, they did the Beretta 92, they did the HKP7, the AUG, all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was really cool.
That is cool. Sorry, I was just taking a drink.
Oh, that's fine. But yeah, and they're pretty good shooters. They do have some practical stuff about concealed carrying. One of an entertaining one that they did a while back was for summer carry. And the advice, I think it's more stuff to think about rather than like hard and fast advice. I think they just make you think a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what we need though in the gun community too. It's easy to be validated by thousands of YouTube content. Just, so I carry a gun because of this, but it's good to have somebody that kind of just throws you out a little bit and makes you wonder why you carry that gun, or maybe you pick something different.
Yeah, and just makes you think that one of the things that I've learned with watching a lot of YouTube videos is that there are a lot of different ways to do things in the firearm world. And, the big thing is there's a lot of different ways of doing things, and that if it works for you and it's safe and effective, then that works. But I think one of the things about watching YouTube videos is, as a whole, is just giving you options and showing you that there's different ways to do things. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what well, you also got to be careful because there's so much junk out there on YouTube too, as well. So it's good to find somebody that's at least competent. And sometimes I guess that could be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there actually, that's a good question. Is there anybody that you don't watch that is a pretty popular gun channel? I might get some interesting comments.
Voda, VODA, that guy. Oh, that guy.
Well, we've talked about before where there's you can tell when an instructor's not a good person or a good instructor, or they they make you feel unsafe. And we've talked about even if it's not if you don't feel comfortable, there's no ill will about walking out of a of a class or something like that. And the same thing with YouTube. If something isn't right, then it's not then don't watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. The only one I can really think of, and I'm sure there's a bunch more out there, but yeah, that Voda guy, he is awful.
Really?
Absolutely awful.
What's his story? Yeah. Do you know?
He's, I don't know what country he's from, but I think he lives in Detroit or somewhere in the city, and he accidentally shot somebody in one of his classes because they're always carrying. Yeah, they're always carrying hot guns. He always has people pointing guns at it. His students pointing guns at him on purpose.
Oh my God!
It is just awful. He's always flagging himself with his guns in his videos all the time. In fact, the NRA revoked his credentials because he's just ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah, he's terrible.
That's wild, man. Yeah, so stay away from that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was curious, so I turned on some of his new videos that he's still posting videos. In fact, he even wrote a book about self-defense.
Really?
And it blows my mind that people still give that guy any kind of respect.
The only one it's not out of like not being safe or anything like that. It just there's one guy, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if you know this guy or not. Yankee Marshall. Have you heard of him?
I don't think so.
He just seems like somebody, like I've watched a few of his videos, but he seems like the kind of guy that would just complains to complain and like tries to get a rise out of other people.
One of those people.
One of those guys. And maybe I'm generalizing too much or whatever, but he tries, and maybe I'll have to hand it to him. He tries to call people out and tell it as he sees it or whatever, but I think he just tries to be a little more dramatic than he really needs to be, if that makes sense.
Than he needs to be. Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's a few out there. Honestly, like I've heard people complain about John Lovell, which blows my mind. The Warrior Poet. That is a fantastic channel. And that dude's just a solid dude altogether.
Oh yeah. He's a great guy.
But I've seen people post stuff about his videos and I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, he's a terrible instructor. No, he's not.
No, he knows what he's doing. I think maybe I could see where somebody could think that his personality might rub them the wrong way because he is very direct and he makes no bones about it. But I think he backs his stuff up with pretty good reasoning and experience and knowledge.
Well, even though he's direct, it doesn't come across as derogatory or demeaning.
No, it's just direct. That's all.
Yeah.
So
I like him. I've talked to him personally too. That guy, I respect that guy.
We should get him on the podcast. That'd be amazing.
If I could, I guess I could always reach out to him.
Sure, why not?
So,
go ahead.
On a lighter-hearted part. So this dude, he's not around. I think he actually passed away. I think he had multiple sclerosis or something.
Oh, geez.
But his videos, they're probably not kid-friendly, but they are some of my most favorite gun videos ever produced on YouTube.
Really?
And this is what I was looking for. So it's Karnik Khan.
Oh, this guy. He's still alive.
Is he still around?
Yeah, he just doesn't do anything anymore. No.
He's a stud.
Yeah, that guy's great.
CARNIK space CON.
Yeah, I think he's still on Twitter. I think he just
Carnicon.
stopped doing gun stuff.
Well, that's too bad because it was
Yeah,
hilarious.
Dugan Ashley was his name.
Yeah, Dugan. And I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that this dude was an operator in the military. Like
Serious stuff,
uh,
supposedly.
yeah. I don't know how true that is, but I'd heard that from a friend that knows a guy that knows a guy type of thing.
Well, and you can tell the way that he shoots, like he knows a lot of stuff. But man, yeah, he had some hilarious stuff. Like he had a video about like an AK and the reliability of it, and I think he put like a ham sandwich in the action, and it still worked.
Oh, he's just. I wish he would produce more content because, man, his stuff's funny.
Yeah, I was just doing a quick search of what happened, and in 2017, all of his content was removed from YouTube. Believe it or not.
It's back up on because I pulled it up again.
Oh, really?
But it's not under his personal page.
Oh, okay.
But somebody must have like re-downloaded it somewhere else.
Yeah, well, and his and the whole thing is like it's like almost like satire because like the way he dresses, like it looks like he was in Napoleon Dynamite, like his hairstyle, the glasses, the sweaters, like it's just ridiculous, but so fun to watch. I forgot about that guy.
One of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, and I'll say another one of my favorites, who is another operator. He's I think he is or was a combat controller for the Air Force and some other Air Force special operations kind of stuff. Is the guy Grand Thumb? I've talked about him once or twice before, but he's becoming a big deal, or if not already, in the gun world with his reviews on kind of everything gun related. He does reviews on guns, obviously, optics, even like clothes, like tactical clothes, shooting clothes, that kind of stuff. And this guy goes through more ammo testing one gun than I've probably ever shot in my entire life.
Yeah, I think I've watched a couple of his vids, not too many of them.
Yeah, he's got a unique sense of humor, very kind of internet meme culture. And you could tell he's still in the military, which is not a bad thing. He's just got that kind of sense of humor. But very informative videos, which I think is kind of cool. And he's one of those people where it's like, you have to do what works for you. You know, this is what works for me, and this is why I set my stuff up this way or whatever. But, you know, if you want to do something different, that's up to you, you know?
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, lately I think, I don't know, because he's gotten a little memey, but not too bad. I didn't even know that was a word.
Meme,
like with internet memes. I'm not saying it incorrectly, but the other thing too, like he's addressed a couple things like lead poisoning, you know, and the safety like of shooting that many rounds and getting, you know, a lead test. And he's talked about gun rights and politics every once in a great while, but he tends to stay away from that.
Yeah. Ends up being a killer to some folks, I think. Like, way to lose subscribers, which I don't understand because we all should be on the same page. But
yeah, but I think people there's the same time too. There is like some drama and infighting, and sometimes between YouTube celebrities, you know, and I guess that'll happen whether or not they're in the gun world or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it is what it is. But
well, there's a lot of drama in the gun community altogether. You get. Well, you know, it's like we were talking earlier, they get famous and then they're too good for other people. And I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
they just need to chill out.
Well, and yeah. And I mean, you and I probably have both experienced too, that even as somewhere, you know, as simple as just people in the gun world, it doesn't matter if they're YouTube celebrities or not. They can be dramatic or.
Oh yeah.
we'll leave it at that, I guess.
Yeah. I know a few.
Yeah, one or two. But no, that's about my list. That's all I got. I mean, that should be enough to keep you occupied for a while, I would say.
Yeah, and lately too, I've found myself, not just watching gun videos, but a ton of woodworking videos. A ton.
Oh, well, yeah, you've got the time, and we can't really go out anywhere, so.
That's right.
I've been torturing myself because I've been looking at motorcycle videos.
Oh dear! So, I just watched today too. I just started watching a overlanding vehicle video channel too. So
that has to be fun.
that could get expensive.
Oh, I'm sure, because you need another expensive hobby.
Well, I do have a pickup that I could just kind of switch over pretty easily.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, man. So
it would be fun. It's just money,
Yeah, you can't take it with you.
That's right.
So, well, let us know. Do you have any more, Steve?
I mentioned a few. Like I'll watch Military Arms Channel once in a while.
Yeah.
They have some cool stuff. I'm sure there's some other. Sometimes I'll throw on a Demolition Ranch video if the thumbnail looks entertaining enough. I'll watch them. Those guys are pretty cool too. So
sure,
there's a bunch out there.
Yeah, there's no shortage. But yeah, and you can use your best judgment to tell if somebody's good or not. You can tell pretty quickly, I think, at least.
Yeah.
So, but if you have any YouTube channels that you want to suggest to us, or maybe your own, podcast at iishooting.com, or find us on Facebook and Instagram at Range Minded, and that'd be cool. Maybe we can get a big list going on our Facebook page.
That's right. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Share it to the rest of the community.
Yes, sir. So, well, stay safe. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right, guys, be safe.
See ya. Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook, or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.